Get ready to kick it up for another episode of the Coaster101 podcast. I'm Andrew Stillwell, and I am joined this week by Shane Joseph. Shane, how's it going?
It's going good. It's good to be back.
Absolutely. Well, we've got kind of a twofold episode this week. And Shane, without giving too much away, I mean, you're up in New England and you took a family vacation down to my neck of the woods in the greater Charlotte area. It's a lot it was actually a lot closer than just the greater Charlotte area to me, but we're not going to talk about the big lake that separated us and all that. But as part of that vacation, you got to experience for the first time my home park of Carowinds. And obviously Carowinds, by the nature of this podcast and me hosting a lot of the episodes, we've talked a lot about Carowinds, but it's rare that we get the opinions of a first-time visitor. So with that, I'm going to just open it up. I mean, what were your initial impressions of Carowinds? You know, again, as a first-time visitor, somebody who has been to a good number of parks around the country and the Northeast specifically, but, you know, what were your first thoughts upon arrival at Carowinds and all that good stuff?
So my first impressions were very good. I should say the only other Cedar Fair park I'd been to was Dorney Park in Pennsylvania, which is on the smaller end of the park. So I was excited to get out to one of the more premier parks in the chain. And I was really, really impressed. I had a great time. There's some, awesome rides there. Obviously, I'm sure we're going to talk about. But just from a general park perspective, the way the park was run and the way the park looked, I was really impressed. I had a great time.
Gotcha. And I've got to ask, I know you were there with your younger brother. Did you guys take the infamous standing in two seats one time picture?
Yes, you took that picture, actually. Yes. So we did end up taking that. I would have forgot about it, but I didn't. So that's good. We got the photo.
Okay. I didn't really force you to take it, but again, first time visitor, you got to do.
Oh yeah, I'm glad I have it. Yes,
you got to do certain things when you go to Carowinds, and at the top of that list for most coaster enthusiasts, I feel like, is getting a ride or multiple rides on the coaster. Which shirt you're wearing today? It's like you're wearing the band's shirt to the concert, but
exactly.
Fury 325, and again, we've talked a lot about Fury on this podcast. We've talked about my love for the coaster and the fact that it's won the golden ticket so many years, and it's amazing. And if you think otherwise, you're wrong. But going into Fury, kind of walking up, I know you rode a couple other coasters in the park before you rode to Fury because it was a big milestone for you, the big number 100. But
yes,
let's talk Fury before we talk about everything else, because that's, again, it's a marquee attraction. It is what it is at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it was a first B&M Giga for you, if I'm correct.
Yeah, first any Giga.
So what'd you think of Fury 325?
I loved it. I was not anticipating the speed. That totally caught me off guard. The drop was great. Seemed to last forever. The first ride I got was in the front row, which was excellent for my 100th ride, or 100th coaster, I should say. And I just, walking up to it, I mean, this coaster's got a reputation at this point for being good. So I was very excited to finally be there in front of this ride that I had just heard about for years at this point, and it lived up to all of my expectations and even more, because I was consistently impressed. Every ride that I got on, I think I got 3 total. Every ride, there was something that I liked better or appreciated more about it. So this is just, I mean, one of the greatest coasters out there, and I was just so impressed by the ride.
When you got off the ride, Shane, you told me, and this was after your first ride, so there was some newness there. You told me it was maybe a top 5 coaster. Those were your exact words, and admittedly, I took a little offense to that. It's okay.
I don't know if I said maybe. I probably said definitely at least top 5.
At least top.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so yes,
semantics, right?
Yep.
So after you had your front row ride early in the day, and then you said you had 2 more rides in the afternoon. Where were you riding approximately on the train? You weren't like back row or in the middle?
My second ride was in the very back row, and then my third ride was in the very front row again. And I think this is a front row ride. A lot of people enjoy the back row on certain things, but I think for this one, you have to feel that wind in your face. And I think maybe just because it was warmed up more by this point. Oh, and also this is another thing. We kind of had to wait a while, I think about an hour,
Mm-hmm.
because there was a pretty big thunderstorm in the area. So we were just in the Fury gift shop for an hour. So I had a while to think about what shirt I wanted. But other than that, we waited it out. There was like a group of people. It was great. Like when they finally opened, everybody cheered. That happens sometimes when a ride closes and it was finally open. So I think it was the combination of it had just rained, it was a warm day, and it was toward the end of the day. So this thing was like, those are all the check boxes for an amazing ride. And that last ride in the front, it wasn't quite a night ride. It was almost a sunset ride, which was even better. Everyone was leaving the park, so we could see everybody walking under that kind of wave turn element there. So just overall, I was, like I said, consistently was more impressed every time I rode it.
I agree. I think it's two different rides in the front row and the back row.
Yeah.
Front, you obviously feel the speed. The back, you get more of that airtime, especially in that treble clef turnaround at the front of the park. But after your three rides, I mean, do you want to amend your ranking of maybe top five?
Yeah, I can say now it is definitely in my top five. It is currently, well, it was my number three for about 4 days, and now it's my number four. But we'll get to that later. However, it is this type of ride would maybe not be something that I would typically rate as high, just because I'm a big fan of intensity and speed. I just want to be crushed into my seat and go very fast. And this ride did one of those things, and it did it very, very well. So it is definitely firmly in my top five.
Got it. Okay. That is fine. And again, that we talked about, that was roller coaster number 100 for you. But
Yes.
when you entered the park, you were sitting at 97, correct?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. So roller coaster 98 for you was the Dale Earnhardt themed Intimidator, another
Yep.
B&M. Definitely different sensations of airtime and speed, and
Absolutely different. Yeah.
kind of compare and contrast Intimidator and Fury a little bit for somebody who had never experienced either one prior to our
Mm-hmm.
visit last week.
Well, I will say this. I was totally blown away after my first ride. It's tough, but I would say it's probably my favorite B&M Hyper. The other two being Candemonium and Mako to compare it to. Mako might win out just a little bit, but just that first ride, it was in the back car and in the front two seats. So it was the inner seats, because I forgot about that it had outer and inner seats. So we got whipped over the drop as usual, and the airtime is just unbelievable. And there's a couple elements on here that are sort of unorthodox for a B&M Hyper that I just kind of appreciated were on there, rather than just airtime hill after airtime hill. There was a lot of variety, which I really liked. And we rode the ride again towards the end of the day in the front row, and it was a different experience. But I think I prefer the back just because of that. I mean, every single hill you're getting out of your seat airtime.
Mm-hmm.
And the clamshell, again, everyone raves about them, and I am going to do the same. They are probably the best coaster restraint out there.
They're good when you can fit in them. He said,
Yes.
having thick legs and not being able to ride Diamondback, Orion, Fury, Intimidator in his last couple of park trips. It's okay. I'll live.
Yeah.
I've ridden 3 out of the 4 of those before, and they're all spectacular. And nothing against B&M at all. I am a B&M apologist, fanboy, whatever you want to call it. And then Roller Coaster 99. I know your opinion of this was not as favorable, but
Nope.
you got a ride on the international. It's Hurler.
It is Hurler.
It is the now defunct, I think it's International Coaster Corporation or something like that, but they only did 2 roller coasters, and one of them no longer exists in its given form. But was there anything notable about Hurler that you feel like talking about? If not, we can go ahead and
Notable I would say notable probably if you're in need of a chiropractor. But other than that, I don't know. I can't. I mean, I enjoy wooden coasters. I don't mind when coasters are rough, especially if they're very old. This one I don't even think is old enough to have the excuse to be as rough as it is. And not only is it rough, but it's shaky, and the whole train the entire time is just vibrating all over the place. We were in, I think, the back row, or at least maybe you know what, I don't even remember, but we could see people in front of us shaking throughout the entire ride, and I'm sure we were doing the same. I got really nothing from it, no airtime. The drop was okay, but I didn't like it then, and now especially having ridden the RMC version, which we'll talk about later. uh, I just cannot wait for hopefully RMC to get their hands on this ride. But it was my 99th coaster. It served its purpose to get me to the 100th. So that is at least a positive that I
Yeah.
can take away.
I know the park the last couple of years, and I mean, this is going back to when I first started riding for Coaster101 in 2013, 2014. Like they've they've redone so many of the turns. I know GCI came in and they reprofiled that first turn, and then the park has kind of redone the back couple of turns over the past couple of years. So it is good to see that it is still getting some TLC, and I'm a firm believer that every park needs a big, large wooden coaster. And as you said, it serves its purpose. And I always ride it when I try to ride it when I'm there. And I didn't get a chance to ride because you guys got to the park before I did. And yeah, I think it's a good ride. I think it gets a lot of unnecessary hate, and it is what it is. We don't have to talk about it anymore. I don't need to bring up bad memories for you, Shane.
It's okay. I mean, I've ridden worse, but yeah, I don't know if I can share. I don't know if I would ride it every time I went there, but that's okay. It was it is what it is.
Okay, got it. But let's talk the other coasters. Obviously, there's Copperhead Strike you got on. You got on the Carolina Cyclone, which just
Yep.
celebrated its 40th anniversary last year. So they've got a good variety. But what were some of the coaster standouts at Carowinds of coasters we haven't talked about yet?
I really enjoyed Copperhead Strike. I kind of mentioned this, I think, when we were at the park too, but it was kind of a good experience for me because that was kind of the first thing that I really remember reading about on Coaster 101, or at least following, obviously before I was a writer, following the construction of it. And to finally get there, after having not only read all the articles but also hearing good things from other enthusiasts, I think it's a really fun ride. It's the launches aren't intense, but they're not meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is a coaster that's about hang time, which typically hang time is not my favorite thing. I don't love being held upside down. I can only do it for a certain amount of time without freaking out. I will never ride a Larson loop again. But this was just enough of it to be thrilling. And there's some really fun inversions on here aside from the vertical loops that I really liked. There's more elements, and the beginning launch section is a lot of fun, being in that themed area, and just the theming on the ride overall too, I should mention, is a lot of fun. And I think it's a perfect fit for the park. It's exactly what they needed, and I was really impressed with that. Some other coasters, I'm trying to remember. I've just ridden so many coasters over the past couple of months. Nighthawk, we did not get to ride, but that's okay. It leaves something to do when I come back, maybe, if it's still there. Afterburn was a good invert. It wasn't. I feel like it wasn't as good as some of the other inverts I've been on. But then on the same point, I've said that to a few people having after I've been there, and they really seem to like it. So I think maybe I just rode it on an off day or in an off seat. I think I rode it in the very back, which typically I'm a big fan of B&M inverts. I really like them. Montu and Batman, the clones, Talon too. I love them. So I think maybe I got to give this one another shot too when I get back. But it definitely wasn't bad. The inversions were a lot of fun, and I liked where it was low to the ground inside the tunnels. There's some strong G forces here.
Yeah.
It was just the areas in between that I thought were a little bit uneventful.
Knowing the backstory of Afterburn and formerly Top Gun, and if you talk to anybody who grew up in this area, it will always be Top Gun, despite what Paramount or Cedar Fair says. It's like, people ask me about the park, and it's like, do they still have Top Gun? And I'm like, yeah, but it's got a different name now. But it is built on the highest point of Carowinds, like topographically.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
and so you can see it from the highway, and it's still not super tall. Obviously, they're far taller B&M inverts, Alpengeist, Banshee, coasters of that nature, but they make the best use of the terrain that I've seen.
It's a great low to the ground coaster.
It is. And going back to Copperhead Strike, I think we almost lost your brother on that JoJo roll. He was like, why does this?
I think so too.
Why does this have to be a thing? But obviously it's a great way to start Copperhead Strike. And
I literally forgot. I can't believe I forgot about that. I love that element so much. Every JoJo roll I've been on, they're so fun. And again, there's really no reason for them to be there. Like, they could have just made that a turn, but no, they decided to put a slow inversion on the station. That's so cool and so unique. And you can see it from the ground, from the outside. And it's with just the lap bars is really, really cool.
Yeah. And let's talk about maybe the sleeper hit coaster of all of Carowinds. And it's not Vortex, if you're listening and are really confused at this point.
Forgot about that one too.
It's okay. Woodstock Express, it's received some track work, and whenever I bring somebody to the park for the first time, my goal is like, hey, they've got great, enormous coasters here: Fury, Intimidator, Afterburn, Copperhead Strike. That's a solid top 4. But when you go to Carowinds the first time, it's almost mandatory, I feel like, for people to ride Woodstock Express. And so I got to hear your thoughts on Woodstock Express.
It was so fun. It's probably my favorite kiddie coaster, if you can even call it that, because I feel like it's not even a kiddie coaster. It's more of a family coaster, I would say. There was nobody in line for it, which was great. So when you go, it's probably not going to have a line. So definitely make it a priority to ride it. And it's just fun. It's fast, surprisingly fast. And there's some decent airtime. Like, there's some really good moments. And I think this would be a great coaster for someone who is either young or just doesn't ride a lot of coasters in general. This is like a good kind of introductory coaster to get them going a little bit. And yeah, I have nothing but good things to say. And the color scheme is really cool. You never see that kind of deep purple and yellow. I thought that was overall loved it. Great ride.
Good deal. Yeah. Like I said, I think when I take people on that and they're looking at me like, why are we riding this wooden kiddie coaster? And they always get off with a big smile on their face. And we'll include
of course.
We're going to include the on-ride photo of Shane and I. And Shane's younger brother. I'm sitting in front of both of them, and we'll call it a genuine reaction. I don't believe it was staged. It was kind of, it
was totally real.
It was definitely a genuine reaction, but that'll be in the article on Coaster101 about this episode, because I don't think you can link pictures in the show notes. But anyway, another thing Carowinds over the past couple years has really stepped up their game on is their food options. And speaking from experience, this was my first time in the park this season as a guest, and we had lunch at Harmony Hall, and they have a poke bowl at Harmony Hall that was it was fantastic. Like, fresh ingredients, they made it right in front of you. Everything tasted amazing, and you don't typically put theme parks and sushi in the same sentence, hardly ever, unless you're that Twitter account that's like Theme Park Sushi. So shout out to them. But it was so good, and again, culinarily, Carowinds and Cedar Fair in general. I know we talked a little bit about Kings Island on our Coaster Stock episode with Don Helbig last week, but these parks are just knocking it out of the park. And I know, Shane, you had the brisket, right?
Yes. Yeah, it was great. It was fresh. You could see they were making it right there. They had it out on like a wood cutting board. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the wonderful beverage that I had as well, which was called a Tum-E Yummy. And if you're at Carowinds, it's definitely not only at Carowinds, but if you see this anywhere, you got to get it. It's like a kid's drink. However, we've just learned that kitty coasters can be fun. Well, kitty beverages can be fun. Also, loved it. But enough about the Tummy Yummy. The brisket was great. And the side I got, I think mac and cheese on the side. And that too was great. It didn't feel like, it was out of a box or out of a freezer. It definitely tasted like it was fresh, and the cheese was a good consistency. Just overall, I was really impressed with Harmony Hall, and they have a big video screen where they play kind of behind the scenes videos of like RMC employees. I think we're talking about Steel Vengeance when we were there. Just really cool, kind of nerdy enthusiast things. But it's just cool to kind of see that attention to detail rather than just a bunch of advertisements.
Yeah, it was their Q Fun TV. They do these, behind the scenes vignettes and a lot of cool information, but it is definitely fun. I remember one of the first times I was in Harmony Hall. This was like, I sat at Harmony Hall because it was the last day of the season. It was a Sunday. They were playing NFL football on that giant screen, and it was so cool. One of the coolest experiences
awesome.
I've ever had. But after we get through the branded content for Tummy Yummies, the official beverage of 21-year-old Shane Joseph, Tummy Yummies.
Please, if they want to sponsor us, I will absolutely try all the products.
Okay, anyway. Anything else at Carowinds that's, that you guys experienced? I know I had to leave kind of early in the afternoon right before that mega thunderstorm came through.
Yeah, so you didn't miss much. Kitty Hawk we rode. Fun, that I would say is almost more of a kiddie coaster than Woodstock Express, but fun, another credit to have. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, they've got some cool merchandise. I've kind of noticed some regional parks often don't have a lot of branded merchandise, but both Cedar Fair parks I went to on this trip had some really cool merchandise and nano coasters. I have a nano coaster here, not a Fury. I have an Intimidator 305 nano coaster, but they've got the wooden cutouts too, which are cool, and a bunch of like logo t-shirts, and they have Squishmallows there if that's your thing, basketballs. They've got a bunch of stuff, so definitely worth the stop at the gift shop because they got some cool stuff in there
for sure. And I feel like those wooden coaster cutouts, and as well as the nano coasters, I mean, shout out to Coaster Dynamics. I don't know if they listen to this podcast or not, but they're killing it on the
absolutely.
They're everywhere this year. But
they've got the Parkscapes too. I wish I got that from Carowinds, where they have it's kind of a vignette of a bunch of different rides and coasters at the parks. It's so cool.
Well, the good news is, Shane, I'm down here and I go to the park a fair amount. So if we could probably make that happen if you want one.
yeah, that's a good point.
So, but you kind of mentioned it earlier, and we've hinted at it a couple of times. But as you were driving back to New England, and again, to me, the Northeast is just New England. You get north of DC and you're in New England. That's not accurate.
Yeah,
but
I did know. No, it kind of. I noticed on the drive, like any of the states up to Virginia, basically, they all look the same on the highway. Obviously not off the highway, but the tree, it looks similar driving through. But anyway, that's not the point.
Yeah. So you had a couple hour drive up I-85, and you ended your vacation almost, or took a pit stop, however we want to say this, at the other Cedar Fair park in the Southeast Mid-Atlantic kind of combo region. It's all relative down here. King's Dominion. And
yes,
you were there. Let's talk coasters, but you were also there on the first day of their Grand Carnivale.
Yes, I was.
So you got to the park, and let's talk their coasters. Obviously, you've kind of hinted at it here a little bit. Intimidator 305, it's arguably one of the park's top 2 coasters. What did you think of I-305? And again, I know it is a favorite for a lot of enthusiasts. You're kind of more of a coaster masochist than I am. You like getting beat up a little bit more. But what'd you think of I-305?
I absolutely loved it. And I kind of figured that I would. previously my number one coaster, now my number two coaster, is Sky Rush at Hershey Park, and Intimidator 305 just being a bigger, faster version of that. I figured it had to be my number one, and sure enough, it was. It is by far the most intense coaster I've been on, probably the most intense coaster out there. Uh, there's a guaranteed gray out moment every single time on this coaster, and I love it.
Ugh.
Yeah, you know, after the first drop, there's a good like 5 seconds where you pretty much can't see. And that is the indicator of an intense ride for me. And some of the snaps on this ride, the quick movements from left to right, I sat in the back row and my neck hurt. These things are one of the coolest elements I've ever experienced. It is wild sideways airtime that is unparalleled on any other coaster or ride experience. And the cable lift is just the perfect beginning to the ride as well. And then that wild whip right into the first brake run hill
Mm-hmm.
is also just ending the ride perfectly. So beginning to end, I was absolutely in love with Intimidator 305.
Okay. Again, I like my rides like Fury. I like them nice and smooth, and just gliding, butter smooth. And it kind of comes down to a personal preference between Intamin and B&M. And I know
Yeah.
John is also, he's a big Intamin guy. He loves I-305. I think it's a very good ride. It's not my favorite coaster, King's Dominion, by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I mean, it's good for what it is.
Yeah.
It's again, it's fine. It's very fast and it whips you around. I don't like the graying out.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not, I can't say it's a pleasant feeling. So it's not for everybody, but if you like it, you're gonna love this.
Yes. Well, we're going to talk a little bit now about my favorite coaster at the park, which is my number 3 coaster overall. Believe it or not, is Twisted Timbers, which, as you hinted at earlier, is the RMC version of Hurler at Carowinds, and it was also Hurler at King's Dominion back when the park was under Paramount. It had a Wayne's World theme and all this good stuff. But now it's home to the Hanover Hill Orchard and the mysterious forces that have invaded that. But what do you think of Twisted Timbers?
So I'll start with this before I get into my thoughts on Twisted Timbers. I went in. I don't think I've seen a POV of Twisted Timbers since it was announced. It was never a coaster that was really on my radar all that much because I was always focused on getting there to ride Intimidator 305. I have Wicked Cyclone pretty close to me in my home park at Six Flags New England, so I assumed that it would be a similar ride experience to Wicked Cyclone. What I did not expect is that it would be a significantly better ride. This is, I think, my number 6 or 7 coaster overall. And I will say that even having been on Sky Rush and having been on Intimidator and these crazy coasters, I think this may be the strongest moments of airtime that I have ever felt. There are some hills on here that are just unbelievable. I think this thing is an engineering marvel. I don't understand anything about the design process of designing this, and that is perfectly fine because I just loved experiencing it as a rider. I love the wacky barrel roll drop. It's just so much fun. The turnaround was awesome, and every single airtime hill on this was like A plus airtime, which is something with a lot of RMCs that I think people kind of have complaints about, where there's really good moments and then there's kind of lulls in between. Not on this. Not on this. It is like go, go, go the entire time. And I got 2 amazing rides, both in the very back row. This also went down for weather. We were in the station and it went down for weather for about a half hour, but that was okay because everybody else left. So there was like 5 groups in the station and we all got on right after the weather. And shout out to the ride ops too, because while it was down, they were talking to the guests. They were doing like trivia about the ride and about King's Dominion. So they were super good sports. And again, can't say enough good things about the ride itself.
Yeah, those airtime camelbacks, kind of what I like to call the back stretch of the coaster. Um, Obviously, you have the barrel rail drop, you've got that overbank turn going around the station, then you go into these three just insane camelback hills before that kind of cut back stall inversion on the backside.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my gosh,
crazy.
it's nuts! It's so good, and again, I don't think Carowinds should touch Hurler. If they decided to go the route of Twisted Timbers, I wouldn't be upset. But I think every park needs a big wooden coaster, and for that, it's Carowinds. And while King's Dominion has a couple other wooden coasters, but what were some of the other coasters you rode? I know you only had about a half day at the park, but
Yeah, that was a thing. I didn't have a lot of time, so I wanted to maximize the amount of coasters that I got on. Uh, and I think I only got on three. I think I only got on. Oh no, that's not true. Okay, so I rode Intimidator three times. I rode Twisted Timbers twice. I rode Apple's Apple once, and I rode Backlot Stunt Coaster once as well. Um, I can't say too much about Apple's Apple. So it's probably, if you consider it a wild mouse, I think it's the uh, most fun wild mouse I've been on because it's
mhm.
a very different layout. I thought that was a lot of fun. It's a perfect family coaster, which is what we did. We wanted a ride that my parents could actually ride with us, and they enjoyed it. I think that's probably their thrill maximum there, but it was a lot of fun for that. And then Backlot Stunt Coaster is another one that I don't really hear that much about often, and I think it's just a really really fun ride. Um, the launch is very cool, and then you go right from the launch into that those twisting helixes up, which are really really fun, and definitely bring some great intensity to what's basically a family coaster.
Mhm.
I didn't know that it had an indoor section, so that was a lot of fun. Kind of not knowing that. There was a section where there's supposed to be fire. There was not, and you could definitely tell that things are supposed to be happening, but that's okay. It didn't really detract from the ride at all.
Mhm.
It's just a really fun coaster, and I love that it's at a bunch of Cedar Fair parks. So I'm looking forward to experiencing it at the other parks too.
Yeah, for sure. It was when we were up at Coaster Stock, we did not get on it during our time, but you could see the effects were going, the flames would go from time to time, the helicopter, the you could hear
Yep.
the, the gunfire, the fake gunfire. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Um so it is definitely a fun coaster, and you kind of have that drop out of what used to be kind of an Italian job billboard. Now it's just kind of a more
Yep.
generic backlot stunt coaster, but that drop kind of under that bridge to end the ride is really fun. So, and Apple's Apple, same thing with that first drop. It definitely is. It's a more unique
Yeah.
wild
It's
mouse
really cool.
model, and you go from that drop into the tight hairpin turns, and it is a very fun ride. And I like the name. A lot of people,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
It's a good
used
name.
it used to be Ricochet, and now
Okay. Well, I like this better.
it's got a little bit of character to it now, and kind of ties into that whole Hanover Hill Orchard theme. Um, but I touched on it earlier. You were at the park during the first night of King's Dominion's Grand Carnival, which debuted at the park in 2019. And after the year that was 2020, took a year off, just like the rest of the park did, pretty much. And it's back this year in 2021. So, what were some of the things you saw and experienced during Grand Carnival? Obviously, there's entertainment, there's food, there's the spectacle of color parade, which is very exciting. But what did you think of Carnival? And what were some of the things you ate that stood out to you?
So I had a lot of fun at Grand Carnival. I went at Dorney Park as well in 2019, and I was super impressed with it then, and I'm just as impressed now. It's a really, really high quality event, and I absolutely love that it's at most of the Cedar Fair parks. I think it's a really awesome event. If you live near a Cedar Fair park or you're going to one, definitely don't miss it. I know it can kind of seem like a distraction from the rest of the park, but I think that it's very much deserved. And just the festivities area is so much fun, and there's bright colors, and there's different theming at the food stands, which is great. So if we want to get into the food,
Yeah.
um, I think I've got the menu right here. I kind of had a lot of stuff, mostly because I was kind of sharing with my family, so I had little bits of a lot of things. The dumplings and the egg rolls from the China, I guess, pavilion, we'll
Mhm.
call it, were really great, as well as the crepe from the France tent. I don't usually, crepe isn't usually something I would go for, but this is probably the best one I've had. The macaroons are great. The sliders were okay. I got them towards the end of the day, so I think they were just kind of trying to get rid of them. So I feel like, weren't as good as they would be in the middle of the day. So if you're going to get the sliders, do it earlier on. Some of the things I missed, I wish I could have tried the chocolate cake and the pretzel bites from Germany. I didn't get anything from Germany, but everything on their menu looks like it would be really good. The fried ravioli in Italy is definitely a must have. It was great. And the churros as well from Spain. They've got this caramel sauce that you can dip it in. And oh, it's just, you can tell that it's just so bad for you, but it's so good. So I was really impressed with the food. And there's something about having all these different regional foods, or I should say international foods at a regional park, that's just really special. And there's not a lot of this happening, I feel like, at other parks or other times throughout the year. So it's definitely a really special event. The parade was good as well. I wish that it was nighttime when it was happening, because the park was only open till I think 8. So in the summer, if they do decide to extend their hours, it's definitely really good at night. That's when I saw it at Dorney Park. It was all dark, so I could see the floats lit up. And I actually, this is a funny story. When I was at Dorney Park, it's one of the only times I've been at a park alone. It just happened to be that that's how it worked out that day. And it's not my favorite thing, just because I think part of being at a park is that you're with friends or family having fun. But regardless, I was there. And there's a point in the parade. I didn't see it happen this year. Maybe it was just the portion of the parade that I saw, but there was a part where the parade stopped and they had people like come into the parade, and this performer at Dorney Park basically forced me to join the parade, but I was so glad he did, because it was a lot of fun. We did this like dance, but anyway, that was at Dorney Park. Here at Kings Dominion, the parade was just as good. The floats are really impressive. They're a lot of fun. I think my favorite is they've got a trampoline float where there's people doing gymnastics and flips, and just that's the main thing about Grand Carnival is all of the performers are absolutely the highlight. They are loving what they do, or at least looking like it, and they are very talented, and they are just having the time of their lives, which makes you want to have the time of your life also. So everyone who is involved with the Grand Carnival, the cast and the dancers and the performers, I was really, really impressed with all of it. And I know that you also got to experience Grand Carnival at Carowinds. So what was your experience like there?
Yeah, I went from not going to Carowinds at all the whole season to I feel like I was there 3 times in the span of about 10 days. So I was there with you last Monday. This is 2 Mondays ago at this point.
A
It's a
couple weeks ago.
couple of months. And then I went to a preview for Grand Carnival and wrote that up for Coaster101.com. Be sure to go check that out. And then this past Thursday, I went with my girlfriend to Carnival. She's not a big roller coaster person. So when I can get her to go to Carowinds, it's typically for, events like Grand Carnival or Winterfest. We haven't done a Scarowinds yet, so that probably won't happen if we're going to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I loved Grand Carnival. I mentioned it before on this podcast that I'm so excited it was coming to Carowinds. It was supposed to be 2020. Again, last year being last year, didn't happen.
Oh, did they not have it in 2019?
No, they did not.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's cool. So it's a new experience
It
there.
is. Yeah, they added it this year at Carowinds, and Valley Fair's got it too. So having Carnival, with no offense to King's Dominion, where I don't have to drive 4.5, 5 hours to go experience Grand Carnival, it's very nice. But you were talking about the food. I too had the dumplings and the egg rolls. Uh,
Oh, the dumplings, I forgot. Yeah, dumplings and the chicken fried rice. Basically everything from the China Pavilion.
yeah, those dumplings with that ponzu sauce, that was just
Oh man,
that
those
was
were good.
next level good. I actually got to have the pretzel bites. They were very good. They were served with a like a beer cheese and a mustard, and
Nice.
I think I put on Twitter that you're some people are pretzel with mustard people, some people were pretzel with cheese people, and at Grand Carnival, fortunately, you didn't have to choose, which was lovely.
That's great.
Also had the fried ravioli; those were really good. I had the cavatelli cone, which if you like carbs or if you're on a keto
Oh yes, yeah.
if you're on a keto diet, you should probably turn off this podcast for a couple of seconds because at the Italy Pavilion, they've got this cone. It's a fresh. There's pasta tossed with marinara and meatballs, but they don't just serve it to you on a plate or in a bowl. They serve you this pasta in a cone made of bread. And the bread was delicious. The pasta was good. The meatballs were good. I was in like fat kid heaven there. It was so good. And then in Spain, I too had the churros. Churros really good. That caramel dipping sauce, as you said, fantastic.
Delicious.
Also had the potatoes bravas and the pollo al ajillo. I'm hoping I pronounced that latter one right, but very good. The garlic seasoned chicken, really tender, really moist, really good. And those potatoes bravas, they had a little bit of a kick with that roasted red pepper sauce, but the garlic aioli quickly cooled it off, so that was good. And then one other dish I had that I wouldn't typically have, but the good thing about these tasting cards at these events is you can try something that you wouldn't normally try. And so at the India Pavilion, they had what I'm reading it right now is a vegetable pakora fritter with creamy cilantro sauce. And this fritter, it was again in the South, we love our hush puppies. And it was kind of reminiscent of a hush puppy, but there was definitely the taste of sweet potatoes and vegetables inside, and it was mixed in a chickpea flour and then fried, and it was different. And I don't tend to get that adventurous with my dining. I get a little out there every once in a while, but these fritters were awesome, and that cilantro sauce was good. They just had a really unique flavor that I've never really experienced before, and so I am thrilled that I had the opportunity to experience it at Carnival. But like you said, the parade, having experienced it at King's Dominion in 19, it is circumstances being what they are, it is a better parade in the dark just because of the way the floats are lit up. But the floats are manufactured by Kern Studios out of New Orleans, and they do all the parades for the Mardi Gras, or all the floats for the Mardi Gras parades. And so they obviously know what they're doing when it comes to parade float design. And these floats are just beautiful and they're ornate. And, we've got at Carowinds, they've got like a Bourbon Street float that I don't think any of the other parks have. So that was really cool. I don't know if the King's Dominion parade or not. They had a sports car with with like the Alligator King. Like they have,
Yeah, I said that when the parade went by. I was like, if I want to drive the Mustang, that if I worked there, that would be my job.
yeah. So that was really cool to see. But I just think that parade soundtrack, and I've been trying for
Oh, good luck getting that out of your head. I have had it stuck in my head since 2019.
I have too, but I've been trying so hard to get in good with somebody at Cedar Fair who will just be like, hey, I just want the MP3. I don't want to distribute it. I don't want to do anything with it. I just want to put it on my iPhone and I want to play it, because it's an instant mood boost. I mean, it's just.
It totally is. I maybe like there might be one on YouTube, or if you go shout out Coaster101 Instagram, I recorded some video from the opening ceremony in the parade. So if you want to hear it, that's where you're going to get your audio sample.
Okay, I'm gonna have to do some digging here, but like you said, Shane, and I think this might be a trend chain wide. The performers, the live entertainment was good. caught some of the like the jester drum line, and I caught some of the acrobats at Carowinds. And this girl was in a, she was doing the type of stuff they'd have during the Cirque show. So she was in the ring and she was, kind of doing cartwheels and spinning around and things like that. And it's all these things for somebody with no upper body strength who kind of looks at like, wow, that's a thing that people can do. And
Yeah.
you're sitting here eating bread cones filled with pasta. What are you doing with your life? So, but the parade was great. The performers, the entertainment teams at all these parks just need to, be commended because it is such a fun event. And I hope that this year has been good for Cedar Fair, and this event will continue to grow and, grow in magnitude, and we'll be able to get that parade at dark again. And it's just so much fun. And like Shane said, if you're at a Cedar Fair park, so that's Worlds of Fun, it's Carowinds, it's Kings Island, Dorney, Valley Fair, and Kings Dominion. Those are the 6 parks that have it this year. Go during Grand Carnival. I know
you gotta go. You have to go.
It's so good. And I know at Carowinds it goes through August 1st. There's 2 different date cycles. I think it started this past weekend at Worlds of Fun and Valley Fair. So just pay attention to your local parks. If you're one of those parks that I mentioned, those 6 parks, you got to go during Grand Carnival. The food's great. The entertainment's great. I legitimately went to Carowinds last Thursday, did not ride one single ride, and spent my evening watching the entertainment, eating the food, and watching that amazing parade and that amazing production. And it's so much fun, and can't recommend it enough for anybody. If you're not a roller coaster person, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast, but it's just a great time. I mean, again, as I mentioned, my girlfriend, not a roller coaster fan, not a big ride person. She had a ball at Carnival and loved.
Same with my parents. Yeah.
So just do it. Just go experience.
And you could totally you could make an afternoon out of it. Like if you go to the park, especially like if it's your home park, this would be a lot easier, but just ride rides in the morning. And then from the kickoff of the event to the end of the day, just hang out in the plaza area, get a tasting card, have a bunch of food and drinks, and there's always something going on, which is cool, whether it's like an actual performance or just characters walking around.
Yeah.
It's a really great day to spend at a park.
Yeah, and you did mention these events, they kick off in the afternoon, so the food booths aren't open all day. And it's, you get there, Carowinds, I think, opened at 5 o'clock. So you get there, the park has an opening ceremony for Carnival with the king and queen of Carnival, who... brilliant actors, by the way. I interviewed them. Check that out on our YouTube channel. But they play their characters so well. And, again, you get a tasting card. They're like $30. You get 6 tastes, or it's $35 in the park, $30 in advance for 6 tastes. Or if you're a pass holder, you can get the pass holder exclusive card, $45 in advance or $50 at the park. But you get 6 tastes for, these are $7 a piece, so you're saving money, and it's just
definitely. And King's Dominion has a nine taste option too, and 9, honestly, if you want my honest opinion, 9 might be too much. I would say go with the 6 option, just because there's so much, and it's not even a little portion either. These are big, shareable portions of food.
Yeah, I had the 9 taste card split between my girlfriend and I, and we were full by the end. It got to the point where I was like, well, we should probably end with the macaroons because everybody loves macaroons, but the France booth was so far away. And by so far away, I mean, it was on the other side of, it was not far at all. It was like on the other side of the stage, basically, from where we were sitting in by the funnel cake emporium. And I decided to get the churros because I was too full to walk the extra 25 steps to the France Pavilion. So, and
that's a compliment to the food.
It absolutely is. It definitely is. Not to the fact that I'm lazy and I'm still in shock by the girl in the doing the artistic ring work, but it's all good anyway. Shane, anything else you want to mention about your trip to King's Dominion?
I don't think so. I just had a great time overall. Obviously, I missed a lot of stuff in the park, so that's going to have to be a park that I get back to. But it's a park that I'm excited to get back to. And ultimately, I can't wait to come back here and ride all the new rides and ride the rides that I've already ridden because they are excellent.
Well, we got to get you back down to Carowinds too. You can't.
Yes, that too.
We got to get you on what is it? Wilderness Run. We'll find you a child to borrow. We'll get you on Wilderness Run. Get the kitty credit, and we'll make it happen. And we'll get you on Nighthawk too. It's all good.
Yes, it's going to be great.
Good deal. All right. Well, with that, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Coaster 101 podcast. Appreciate Shane for your time. If you're not following us on social media, you should definitely be doing that. We're at Coaster101 anywhere you consume the platforms. Reading words on the internet is more your speed. We also have a website, Coaster101.com, so be sure to check that out. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, fan mail, hate mail, whatever you want to, if you're tummy yummies and you want to sponsor this podcast based on
please,
Shane's,
I might reach out at this point.
Yes.
I want more tummy yummies.
Send us an email. We're podcast@coaster101.com. If you're listening to this podcast, make sure you're liking, rating, reviewing, subscribing, telling your friends, telling people who aren't your friends, talking about it in queue lines. Do whatever it takes to get other people to listen to this podcast and help people find us, because the more people find us, the more exciting it is for us to make episodes, and we get to keep this show going. Thanks, as always, to JM Music Design for our theme music, and we will talk to y'all again soon. See ya.